Hello. Well, today my face cam is absolutely messed up, so we're going VR anime edition, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna talk about Dragon Age Veilguard. Recently, BioWare dropped a advanced combat gameplay video, and I'll tell you what all of us feel, including you and I. They should have done this the first, like before everything else. Before even releasing the first gameplay showcase, which admittedly, I think the graphics look pretty nice to me. I don't like the graphical style maybe for the new monsters because they give me Suicide Squad vibes. You know how in that game, everything is just like neon colored and no monsters really have defined characteristics, aka there's nothing that makes them unique or cool to look at. But regardless, we all know that was an absolute mess, and this was basically the best thing I've seen about the game. That leads me to say that in some ways, this looks way more fun to me than Inquisition. And in some ways, it looks like a step back. So much so that if the rest of the game, like the companion dialogue, the story itself, the choices you make, and how much we're gonna have an impact as a result of those choices, if they do not handle those well, this game might be cooked. The best that this game might be able to do is maybe a 5 out of 10, barely. Which is not horrible by any means, but when you talk about Dragon Age, you can talk about Dragon Age Origins, which is one of the best games of all time. Of all time! And then you have the lineage of BioWare with Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, and the Mass Effect series. This cannot be taken lightly. They gotta hit a home run with this one, and again, from what I've seen, in some aspects, they've been able to do that. For example, in this showcase, we saw a warrior type Rook, which is going to be our main character if you don't know. And the combat we as the player get to do seems actually pretty fun. Even before showing any combat, they showed a lot of UI, inventory, you know, the skill tree. And stop me or correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me when I'm telling lies, ladies and gentlemen, but doesn't this look like the exact same UI that we had in the Assassin's Creed games? Like, I had to blink fast for a couple of times just to make sure that I wasn't watching an Assassin's Creed Odyssey video, you know? It's kind of ridiculous. It made me feel like I'm watching a Ubisoft trailer. But you know what? I enjoyed my time with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. By no means was it a perfect game, but it was pretty good. So I don't hate the UI. I actually think at least there's a bit of coercion. They seem like they have a vision, and the visual direction is not all over the place, which is a good sign. And I dunked on the monsters, for example, graphically. I still don't think they're really cool, like the Darkspawn from like the first game. But I do gotta say, the Darkspawn types we got to see in this combat showcase, I thought they looked a little cooler. Now, getting back to the combat itself, the reason why I thought it was really cool is because, well, you got the Sparta kick, you got the Captain America shield throw, you got the Scorpion get over here with the sword and shield warrior. I enjoy the fact that you still have the two-handed swords. That means there's gonna be some variety. Even in just one class, you can go for different weapons. And although I don't like how much stuff there is in the skill tree, it's unnecessarily overwhelming. Whenever I see a skill tree with that many branches, it usually means that it's going to be weak. But it seems like you can specialize on heavy armor. Maybe you can specialize, if there is such a thing, medium armor, low armor. So seems like there are more ways to customize your playstyle and your main character, which is something I always enjoy. One other thing I liked was the variety of the enemies and how tenacious they were. They would keep hitting you, and you only had 3 potions if you wanted to get your health back. Now, maybe you can upgrade that and, you know, bump it up to 5. Not sure, but the difficulty seemed to be there. Now, I might have missed this myself, but I do wish they told us exactly which difficulty this was, like if this was expert, hard, whatever. But I enjoy what I saw from the AI because it just forces you to dodge, defend, and you cannot button mash your way through. You have to actually think tactically, which aligns with Dragon Age, and try to make your way out of this confusing crowd and use the right abilities at the right time. Good stuff. Even when it comes to your companions, it's good stuff. They have some fun looking abilities. And being able to combine a couple of abilities together to do great crowd control or a lot of damage. Well, I don't know if we can do a lot of damage, but I'll get to that in a second. It just reminds me of what they did with Mass Effect Andromeda, which I know you're peeking right now, and you're right to do so, okay? That game, while it had some cool stuff in it, obviously was a huge disappointment. But one of the cool stuff that was in it was, for me anyways, how smooth the combat felt. Like, again, it wasn't perfect at all, but I thought if there was a possibility that this exact system was refined a little bit, it wouldn't be too shabby at all. In fact, I might call the combat the least weak part of Mass Effect Andromeda. And everything I talked about up until now was the least weak part of this gameplay showcase we saw, because we're gonna talk about the elephant in the room, which are the companions. Okay, they do have cool looking abilities. The fact that you can combo them, pretty nice. Hell, you can even call down a griffin to swoop through the enemies. Like, it looks great. But the amount of damage, even an ability that takes 15 seconds to recharge did, was ridiculous. It feels like you're doing 2% of damage with your companion abilities unless you use the combos, which then you do more damage, but even that doesn't seem to hit really good. So it makes you very quickly ask, what is really the point of having companions? Because you can see in the gameplay, the main character hits the enemies and he does decent damage. Or even, I think it'd be correct for me to say that he does any damage, because when I look at the companions, when you're not using the abilities, when they're just by themselves going around, they just seem to tank the enemy, right? They pull a couple of the enemies away from you, and it almost feels like they're background NPCs you see in many games, that they're just playing a set of animations, looking like they're busy, looking like they're fighting, but that's about it, because at no point it looked like any of them were in danger of, you know, dying or actually even damaging the enemy. So that was kind of ridiculous. One of my favorite games of all time is Mass Effect 2, and one of my favorite things to do in Mass Effect 2 is to get Garrus, alright, get Thane, give them both sniper rifles and just watch the fireworks. They could probably finish the entire game without me even shooting one bullet. Now, I don't think it falls on me or any of you to say this to BioWare. Companions are your biggest selling point. That's been the case ever since Baldur's Gate 1 or whatever your first game was. So a quick question, whose bright idea was it to make the companions so useless in battle? And forget about BioWare games, this is something I hate in gaming in general. A prime example for this is Call of Duty, especially the earlier games, I think, where you'll have these badass looking soldiers that are super trained, but they cannot hurt a fly. And it's all on you. It feels like all the enemies focus on you as well when you're supposed to be in a battlefield. And it's a horrible feeling. In reverse, it's the best feeling when you're playing a game with companions and you see them go forward, actually do some damage. They don't have to wreck the entire battlefield, but they need to feel like they're there, they're making a difference, and your life is better because they're there. I don't get it. How do we go from Mass Effect 2 to say Last of Us with Ellie and all her amazing abilities to now this? And again, the fact that this is coming from BioWare is crazy, because you all know what we'll be doing for the rest of the game. We're gonna be talking to these companions, doing royalty missions, hating some of them, loving some of them. They're literally the centerpiece of the game. So if the combat with them is this lackluster, where they're not making any difference, that makes me scared about their writing, about their actual impact on the story, about their overall quality. And once you lose that, BioWare, you lose me and you lose a hell of a lot of other people. And you might even lose your company, actually, now that I think about it, because in many ways, this is BioWare's last chance. They gotta make this work or join the EA graveyard, which would be an absolute shame, because I do want to see what they can pull off in Mass Effect 4. And besides all the criticisms I can give them, and trust me, with a Dragon Age Veilguard, I think there is a lot of criticism to be given here. Overall, I'm cautiously optimistic about this game. I'm expecting something a little above average, definitely not expecting a great game. But if you're a fan of the Dragon Age series like me, I think you'll be at least having fun. You'll be satisfied enough to like Dragon Age Veilguard. Like, I don't think this game is right to hell retribution, 0 out of 10, and nothing like that. And this advanced gameplay, again, proves it to me. But circling back to what I wanted to say, they're actually taking steps towards the right direction. And after the success of games like Star Wars, Jedi Survivor, which proved to EA and everybody else, without a shadow of a doubt, single-player games aren't dead, BioWare is going back to their roots. And I know the original team that did all the legendary games that we know and love are not there anymore. But I'm still willing to give BioWare a chance. At the end of the day, I sincerely hope that this is an actual good game and it sells well enough so that we get that Mass Effect 4, and maybe we can even look forward to a new Dragon Age game in the future. And if they continue towards the direction that they're continuing, giving us premium single player experiences with great stories, great decisions, great companions, I literally don't see anything to complain about. Whether you're on the side of BioWare or on the side of consumers. But hey, that's my take. Let me know what you think down in the comments section about this gameplay showcase and how does it make you feel about Dragon Age Veilguard in general. Subscribe for more content, and more importantly than everything else, take care.